Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
For some of you, it might be easier than others, but I'm going to ask all of you to hearken back. Remember when you were a kid? Remember how you thought as a kid? You felt as a kid? It took me a long time to stop feeling as I did as a kid. I think in some ways I was clueless as to what was going on, especially in the adult world. Man, I just could not figure out adults. They just wanted me to behave ways that I did not feel inclined at all. But it seems as it is with life, as I went on, I began to experience a shift and a change taking place in what I wasn't even aware of then, that I now call awareness. I began to make shifts in my awareness, and awareness of course, a lot of the focus had to do with me and how I felt and what was going on in my life. And with that, I began to see that there was some kind of connection between how I felt and the way life seemed to happen. I think emotional awareness, bringing it into a context of awakening, then begins to shed some light on how it is that we begin to deal with ourselves, because people who have an emotional awareness are beginning to understand how they feel and why they feel the way that they do. And because they're beginning to see it in themselves, they're able to look and recognize it in other people, to where they're not quite as clueless about, oh, okay, I get it. I see what's going on with you. I see the way you're acting, so I'm getting a better feel of what may be going on with you emotionally. This emotional awareness also has a way of revealing itself in different considerations, because growing up in a family, now I'm going to assume that you grew up in a perfect family, so we'll use me as an illustration, as something that was a little different. Come on in, she's right here in the back row. A sense of autonomy. In other words, the ability to feel at least appropriately separate from the dysfunction that may be going on in your family. Now see how easy that was? You're able to look at that so objectively and realize that that really is a reflection of your emotional awareness. Because as you're able to see, okay, I'm independent, I can be self-sufficient, I can start relying on myself. I can also recognize that I don't have to be totally alone. I can connect with other people that I feel a similarity with, that they're for me, they're with me, they're not against me, they have a better understanding and appreciation of me. Support, a really important ingredient so far as awakening and having a functioning emotional awareness. Now, this all then brings you to a place of looking and seeing things aren't just black and white. They aren't just good and bad. You start waking up, you start realizing that you can't live your life that way without imposing a lot of hurt on yourself and on others. You start seeing that there needs to be a little bit of flexibility in how you feel about things and how you feel about yourself, how you feel about others. So you start opening up to at least trying to have a little more flexibility in the way you deal with yourself and you deal with others. This then leads to the topic of today, and that has to do with emotional resilience. Because this is one's ability to adapt to stressful situations and even to crises. I noticed that I was able to, as I have been able to in my life, to deal with the small things that come along, that I'm actually building up, if nothing else, a tolerance to life instead of an absolute shutdown to life. To that then when bigger things have come along, I've had this build-up occurring in me to where then I had something to actually rely upon, to count, instead of feeling like I was totally hopeless and helpless. So we're talking about the capacity to adapt and to adjust and to come away with dealing with adversity without lasting difficulties. Now, a lot of people that I have had the opportunity to meet with and to work with have reflected this back to me in a number of ways, and one of the ways is in a resistance to forgive others. You made my life miserable, and I'm going to keep holding you responsible for my persistence in being miserable right now. No correlation, just an accident. I know it seems like there's something there until eventually you get to the place of looking again and saying, wait a minute. I'm the one that's holding all of these ill will feelings. I'm the one who's doing it. I so seldom ever see you. You're not in my life 24/7 like I'm in my life 24/7. If every time I think of you, I find myself falling back into that state of resistance, judging, then I'm the one who's responsible for my own misery here. So, if in no other way, you look at this as a sign of choosing to be healthfully related to yourself. I mean, if you like to go to McDonald's, you like to stuff yourself with junk food, stuff away. But look at what you might be stuffing yourself with so far as feelings that are dis-eased, disoriented in their origins. Look again and see if there's a shift that you can make here. And if there is, to see, this is me practicing resilience. This is me becoming more aware of health-giving ways to live with myself and be with myself. So these are all considerations that eventually lead you to a place of saying, you know, it really seems like being optimistic about life feels a lot better than always having the ass with life. I mean, try it out if you haven't. See if it works for you. See if you can come to the place of getting that chip off of your shoulder and maybe putting it down on the ground and sitting on it. You can turn into a seat instead of a burden. You begin to open yourself up and take on different perspectives that then give you possibilities to really see you're growing more flexible. You're becoming more adaptable. And at the same time, you're not compromising your integrity. As a matter of fact, you're adding to your moral strength to where you actually can and do feel good about you being you. A funny little aside, I had to go to the dermatologist the other day, so you know how you have to wait in a doctor's office. So instead of looking at people, blah, 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 and all the other junk that they had there, I found a Boys Life magazine. How many of you are familiar with Boys Life? How many of you boys? Anyhow? Okay, I was a Boy Scout, so I used to read Boys Life. And I was caused to remember, it's kind of like the code of ethics of a Boy Scout. A scout is blah, 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 blah. And I thought, okay, along the way, I was given encouragement to develop certain qualities, to hold myself responsible for me being me, and then also to give of myself to others in ways of connection, sharing, helping. You look at this and you begin to see, okay, here we have a developing capacity that's extended to us in our lives through different people and different organizations that add to our capacity to have an emotional sense of well-being about who we are. And in that, to develop this capacity of resilience, of being able to adapt, to adjust, and have a substantial foundation, a principle to draw upon that helps us to feel good about who we are. So having brought these to a place of consideration, just think now, what would you want to do? How would you want to build emotional resilience in your life? One of the first things I would encourage you would be to practice acceptance. I know that's a shocker, but it really, really helps. There's so much going on in the world right now that gives you ample opportunity. Practice acceptance. Instead of trying to control everything, practice learning to accept. So that it goes along these lines. Accept what is, let go of what was, and have faith in what will be. Simple, yet so profound and so powerful. So, change. Now here we're talking about a constant of life. A strange way that it may sound strange to you, I would say, learn to predict change. You don't need a crystal ball, but if you do, I can lend you mine. Practice this, that you learn to flow with life instead of against it. We're constantly growing. We're constantly changing. That's just a part of it. Change is there. Evolution is in a state of happening, but it requires you to be in the flow to be able to get a better view of it. And then, of course, what I spoke to you earlier so far as having hope. Be optimistic about your life. Let yourself have that capacity to adapt and adjust. And then last but not least, how can I put this? You're gonna make mistakes. You're not the mistake you think you are. Forgive yourself. Forgiving yourself adds to that capacity of resilience, that ability to adapt and adjust, because you begin to open up to the realization, I am going to make mistakes, but I can and I choose to learn from them. And in choosing that, you open yourself up to the biggest realization of what this life is all about. This life is a big, ongoing schoolroom. We are here to learn. We are here to grow. So today is simply one of those little side classes, not exactly recess, but not exactly a full course either, of encouraging you to open up, develop your emotional awareness so that you can begin to be more flexible in yourself, with yourself, in yourself, with your life. Thank you for your attention. For more information about the Metaphysical Church of Enlightenment or the Rodin Foundation, please go to our website at www.rodin.org. If you have been inspired by the revelations shared in these podcasts, please donate to the Rodin Foundation's ongoing efforts to help others help themselves at www.rodin.org/donate.